1.28 billion. That is a massive number. It's the estimated number of adults all around the world who are living with hypertension, high blood pressure. And yeah, it's a staggering figure for sure. It's one of the biggest health challenges we face. But the real story here, it isn't just how big that number is. It's what's hiding inside of it.
So let's really let this sink in. Of those 1.28 billion people, almost half, 46%, are completely unaware they even have the condition. They have no idea they're at risk. And that is why hypertension gets its chilling nickname, the silent killer. Because it can lead to devastating outcomes like heart attacks, strokes, kidney failure, all while showing zero warning signs. So that brings up a really critical question, right? If the threat is completely silent, how on earth are we supposed to get ahead of it?
Okay, so for decades now, we've been trying our best to predict who's most at risk. But the truth is, the methods we've been relying on, well, they're starting to feel a bit outdated. They were built for a totally different era of data, and they're just proving to be way too broad for a problem that is, at its core, deeply, deeply personal.
And this slide really lays it out, the whole then versus now thing. See, the traditional models, they look at these really broad categories, right? Your age, your gender, your family history. And don't get me wrong, that's useful for flagging big, high-risk groups of people. But here's the problem. You're not a group. You're an individual. And these old models, they just can't capture that incredibly complex, unique dance between your specific genes, your environment, and your personal health data. It's like trying to use a sledgehammer for a task that needs a scalpel. It's a one-size-fits-all approach, and we're realizing that's just not good enough anymore.
So, this is where a brand new detective shows up on the scene, and its name is artificial intelligence. AI is a complete game changer here, because it's not about those broad strokes anymore. It's about learning to paint an incredibly detailed, super personalized picture of an individual's health risk.
So how does it actually do this? Well, you can think of it like building a case layer by layer. The first layer, the base layer, is the standard stuff, your demographics, your clinical data. Then AI adds a second layer of context. It starts pulling in data from your smartwatch, your fitness tracker, your activity levels, your sleep patterns, your heart rate. And then, for the final step, it goes for a real deep dive. It looks into your unique biology, analyzing incredibly complex genetic markers, even things like microRNAs. These are these tiny little molecules in your blood that can act as early warning signals for disease. It's this combination, this stacking of layers, that creates a prediction that's just so much richer and more accurate than anything we've had before.
And let's be clear, the research backs this up completely. This isn't just some new, trendy way of doing things. It's a fundamentally better way. Study after study shows that these AI models consistently blow the traditional statistical methods out of the water. And you might ask why? Well, it's because AI is just brilliant at finding those super subtle patterns hidden inside messy, complex, and often incomplete real-world data. The exact kind of data that actually defines human health. But as powerful as this is, even this incredible prediction, it's not the end goal. It's actually just the first.
Right, so where are we going with all this? The ultimate goal is something that honestly sounds like it's pulled straight from the pages of a science fiction novel, but it's becoming science fact incredibly fast. We're talking about moving beyond just predicting your health to actually creating a functional, living, breathing, virtual replica of you. And it has a name. It's called a medical digital twin. The easiest way to think about it is like your virtual doppelganger. It's a dynamic, constantly evolving model that pulls together every single strand of your health data, from your deepest genetic code to what you had for breakfast, to create a living, working simulation of your body's unique processes.
Okay, so how do we even start to build something like this? This diagram here, it shows a smart glucose sensor, and it's a perfect example of the basic engine that makes it all possible. If you follow along from left to right, you see it starts by collecting raw, kind of noisy data from the patient. Then, an algorithm gets to work. It cleans up that data, that's the denoising part, it enhances it, correcting for any little errors, and then finally, it uses that super clean data to make a prediction. This constant cycle of collect, clean, predict, that continuous loop is the absolute heart of a digital twin.
Okay, now let's take that basic concept and scale it up to something truly revolutionary. What you're looking at here is the workflow for a cardiac digital twin. So on the left, you've got all this different data pouring in.
This all feeds into that medical digital twin in the middle, which is constantly running simulations to predict what might happen next. For example, it takes MRI scans and uses them to build a precise 3D virtual model of a patient's actual heart. And I want to be really clear here. This is not just a picture. It's a working, virtual heart that basically beats in response to stimuli, just like your real one would.
And this graph, this is the payoff. This is where it all comes together. The black line you see is a patient's real measured ECG, their actual heartbeat. The red line, that's the simulation. That's the digital twin's prediction of what that ECG should look like. Just look at how incredibly close they are. The accuracy is just stunning. This is that moment when the virtual model becomes almost indistinguishable from reality.
So what does this actually let us do? I mean, what's the point of all this? Well, just think about it. We could test how a new drug will affect you on your virtual twin before a single real dose ever enters your body. We could run entire clinical trials in silico, that just means on a computer, making them way faster, cheaper, and safer. We could even use this to figure out the best way for a hospital to manage its patient flow, its beds, its resources. It's not just about predicting if you'll get a disease anymore, it's about predicting exactly how it will progress over years. The potential applications here are they're completely transformative.
But, okay, let's get real for a second. Just like those ancient maps that marked the edges of the known world with the words, "Here be dragons," this incredible new frontier has its own monsters we have to face. Building this future isn't just a technical problem, it's a huge ethical and logistical challenge too.
So let's start with the technical hurdles, because they are significant. A recent analysis of 11 different AI studies on hypertension, well, it found some pretty serious issues. For starters, most of the models were built using data from just one country. That means they could be incredibly biased and might not work at all for people in other parts of the world. What's more, almost none of them were tested on other datasets to prove that they weren't just a fluke. And maybe worst of all, the data and the code were almost never shared publicly. That creates what's known as a reproducibility crisis, and it basically grinds progress to a halt for the entire field.
And then, even if we solve all the technical stuff, we're left walking this incredibly fine ethical tightrope. On one side, you have this amazing promise of truly personalized, proactive, preventive healthcare. But on the other side, that's the peril. The risk of creating a massive surveillance apparatus, the danger of accidentally building our own biases right into the code, and the very real possibility of creating a future where health inequality gets even worse, where only the rich can afford to have a digital twin.
This all means we have some really tough questions to answer before we can move forward. Like, how do we collect all this deeply personal data without it becoming a tool for surveillance? Who actually owns your virtual self? Is it you, the tech company that built it, the hospital? How do we make absolutely sure these models are fair and work for everyone, not just one specific group? And maybe one of the most interesting ones. In a world awash with perfect data, do we risk devaluing a patient's own lived experience, their own voice?
But if we can navigate all those dragons, if we can answer those tough questions, the destination is worth it. We're talking about a completely new paradigm for healthcare, a fundamental shift away from simply reacting to sickness and towards something way more powerful, what's being called preemptive medicine.
And this brings us right back to this vision here. But now we're looking at it with this new goal in mind, preemptive medicine. The vision is to have a constant stream of data from every single aspect of your life, your genes, your diet, where you live, what you do, all of it continuously feeding and updating your digital twin. And that twin, in turn, allows us to make interventions before a disease even gets a chance to start. It's a complete flip. It's about controlling disease before it happens, not just treating it after it shows up.
I think this quote from the research really just sums it all up perfectly. Medical digital twins signify a fundamental transformation in health management, shifting from treating diseases after their occurrence to controlling them before their occurrence. I mean, that's it right there. We're on the very edge of this huge transformation. We're moving from a world where we basically wait for things to break to a world where we can actually see the tiny cracks starting to form and we can reinforce them long before they ever have a chance to shatter.
So, I want to leave you with this one final thought. Just imagine a future. Imagine your doctor wants to prescribe you a new medication or suggest a big lifestyle change. But before they talk to you, they first test it out on your virtual self. Imagine a world where they can run a dozen different scenarios in a simulation to find the one single approach that is perfectly, uniquely optimized for you.
So, what if, in the medicine of tomorrow, your doctor's very first patient isn't you at all, but your digital twin?